Banger of an intro song. How do we like that? Welcome, Houston. Thanks for coming out tonight. I guess it feels like night. We've been inside this dark room for a while now, but I guess it's evening, huh?
I actually can't see anyone because the lights are so bright. I mean, that's fine. Do your thing. But it's nice to see you guys.
How many people are racing this weekend? Hands up. Woohoo! Right. Full marathoners, hands up. Nice. Half. And first timers, any distance. All right. Well, good luck. Good luck with that. Now, Houston's been awesome to us. We're super excited to be here. I think we're going to go a little bit down memory lane in a bit. Hopefully, in that conversation, give y'all some tips and tricks. I'm just settling right into the y'alls
Dude,
there.
put your hand down.
It's so right.
It's bothering me. Put your hand down.
I should get my sunglasses. Would that be better? Should I put
So elite. Elite.
the obvious hat on? That would work too. Oh, look, I think they made an adjustment.
Okay. Yeah, that's better. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, thanks for joining us. We're super excited to be here, excited to talk about our history in Houston, but also some really amazing races coming up. But first, Kara Goucher, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I feel like we just recorded a pod, so not much has changed in my life since then.
You haven't watched any new TV shows? We had like a really good conversation about this.
Yeah, not the gory one that you told me to watch that my friend was like, you do not want to watch that. She is wrong. She does not know you and your hate of gore. So I have not watched The Substance. But I did finish Shrinking. Does anybody watch Shrinking? I mean, I could go so deep on this, but it's really made me think about things that happened in my life. This is like so deep, but obviously I lost my father to a drunk driver, so it's really had me thinking about like forgiveness and acceptance. And anyway, that didn't go where I meant to go, but it's a really good show.
I believe that is a pod. I'll have to watch it. That's a pod topic on its own.
Yeah, it's a really good show. It's really made me think a lot. What about you? Have you watched anything else since that amazing movie you tried to sell me on?
No, but you know what? I talked about it, and someone went on the YouTube and was like, oh, you have to watch this show called Yellow Jacket. Who's seen Yellow Jacket? Anybody? Yeah. I have trouble with flying, so I started that right before heading out here, and the whole thing is like this women's soccer team gets in a plane crash and like is on this, I don't know if it's an island, I don't know yet, but they're stranded for like months and months. So yeah, that imagery was exactly how I picture it when I'm flying. But we made it here safely. One direction, done, knock on wood.
If you and I got stranded on an island, who do you think would survive longer?
Both of us. We'd crush. It would be so competitive. It'd be like,
so
I won't die. Like, you die first.
I love you. Die first. So I can tell everyone I live longer.
Like, it wouldn't even be like, hey, how can we get saved? It would be like, I will beat you.
I'm going to make it. I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah, that would be really bad.
That's terrible. Any good food, drink, beverage in Houston since you've been here?
You know, I've barely been here, Des. You're
What's
really.
But anyone from the area want to shout out some good spots for maybe a nice bourbon cocktail? Okay, there's one down there. Okay. What about dinner? We're thinking like good Tex-Mex. Wow. That was just Spanish.
What?
Okay.
How was your run today? You ran.
I did. It was good. I got up early, high-fived a bunch of kids, did 20 jumping jacks, did some trunk swings.
Are you going to write that down in your core?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like a little sore, like those trunk swings, kind of sore from that. And then high-fived a bunch of kids, and then I ran with some of the Brooks crew. CJ was there. He dropped me early. Susanna Sullivan was there. She dropped me early. Garrett was there. He dropped me. So Clara was there, and she ran with me. She was like, please don't get lost. And then Susanna and Garrett humored me later and added on a little bit of mileage. So everyone on the Brooks crew is fit, is what I'm trying to say, in my races further down the line. So I have some catching up to do.
That's okay. You got time.
Yeah. How was the kids event?
It was so great. I love youth running so much, especially when it's focused on not time or place, but just like your own progress. So it was super fun, and I got to hang out with the elementary kids. But they asked some hard-hitting questions.
Give me some of the best ones.
This girl said, how many steps do you think you've taken throughout your running career?
What was your answer?
Phone a friend. I had no idea. I passed the mic. I totally passed the mic. But they were awesome and proud of themselves. And they were all saying their favorite part of the 5K was the medal. So we have a lot of future runners out of that group. It was really fun.
And what else did you do? Was it just the 5K out on the course and then Q&A? Who else was there? Give us just a little bit more about the program.
I was just hanging out when they came back from their race, and then they had breakfast, and then I was with a bunch of Hanson's Brooks athletes. And yeah, all these kids, they piled into 2 different rooms. There was over 900 kids that did it. And there was middle school and high school in one room, and then I was with the elementary kids, and they got to ask us questions. It was really fun. Like, they're so cute and so proud of themselves, and it's awesome.
There's so much hope, and like they're not jaded yet.
They're
It's
not
so
like
special.
us.
Like, oh,
They're like looking back at what we used to be.
once upon a time. I like that. All right, well, good weekend so far. Short trip, and I think the real stuff is tomorrow, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, a little note is that you are on the broadcast tomorrow.
I am on the broadcast tomorrow, yeah. Not sure it warrants the applause, but thank you.
It does. It's exciting.
I think there's a few folks who are working on the broadcast in the crowd. Jay's down there. I see the Monties over there. So we have a really great team, and I think the Houston Marathon team in general has like taken a lot of pride in this broadcast and event. And like every year they come up with a couple things they want to just improve and make better, and like you can see the progress. So we've had this kind of core team for a little while now, and I think it's just getting better and better. And there's always stuff to improve, but we're excited for the weekend, and we're very lucky to have some super high quality races to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, super great fields. There's been so much talk. I'm just going to put you on the spot. There's been so much talk about the American half marathon record tomorrow. I believe it's 59:43. And what are your thoughts on if it's going to stand after tomorrow? They won't be able to hear this till after the race, so they won't know what we say.
CJ's sitting right here, and thankfully this time he's in.
He's pacing. He's just
the flow.
pacing.
Yeah, give CJ a round of applause. What a year last year. He's also buying me time to think about that answer. No, I mean, I'm excited to see what these guys do. It's always weather dependent. It's dependent on pacers, if the guys follow, if they want to just get tactical. Like those first couple miles, we'll see a lot right away, and then there will be a windy stretch where it could all fall apart. But there's certainly the right group of people to make it happen. It's just, how it plays out. And I think the thing that I'm worried about, not worried about, but I want to pay attention to and not overhype is this record, because you have the right people to have a really good race. And people should not be disappointed by the racing if we hit a mark on the midway point and go like, oh, the record has slipped, and then just be bored or tune out because they feel disappointed. It's like you're going to get to see some of the best Americans ever racing, along with a really great international field. And like the racing, the last couple of years here, you've had these crazy sprint finishes, and that's what we should be excited about. If in that process they break a record, that's exciting, but it shouldn't be the story up front, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the weather is going to be a little bit challenging for like a record-breaking day, but I'm actually kind of relieved because instead we get to focus on just great racing and seeing people, instead of time trialing, race each other. So,
were you here or did you watch when Ryan Hall set his record?
I remember when it happened. Yeah. I wasn't here, but I will say, was that 07? 07. I mean, tip of the hat to Ryan Hall, because all these years later, that is still the mark that Americans are measuring themselves against. And he obviously had just a special day. And that's one thing I wish that if I was a coach, I'd be like, you only knock it out of the park like that a few times in your career, but your body of work is amazing. But I just think I really look back at that mark and think, wow, like he did everything right. And that was pre-Super Shoes. This is one hell of a run. I mean, should we adjust it? Should it actually be 58:30?
A new asterisk. Like, actually, it is.
I don't know, it just makes me think of how impressive that run really was. And it will go down. I think we have the talent in the United States right now that is going to do it. Do they do it tomorrow? Who knows? I don't really care. I just am excited to see good racing.
Yeah, I want to see them get after it and just go race each other and try to take a title. But I mean, I remember watching Ryan's race, and that was just really special. Like, I think that was a kid who, when he got on a start line, you were excited because he had the potential to wow you, to like make your jaw drop. And that was one of those days where you saw like flow state, like you saw it and you're like, wow, that's incredible. And you finished and it was like, he's obviously exhausted, but you know, you have those races and you're like, it felt so easy. And like, they're very, very rare, but for some reason, Ryan could like tap into that pretty often. And when it happened, you were like, wow, I watched something special. So yeah, that was one of those races for sure. Really, like your jaw was on the ground, just like, this guy looks like he was built for this moment, for this sport, and whatever pops up on the clock at the finish line is not going to surprise me because like, look at this, it's magnificent, which was really cool. So really special, and I think it'll take that type of like flow, like big performance for that record to go down, and when you see it, it'll be just as special as Ryan's. Yeah,
I mean, what more is there to say? Good job, Des.
Thank you. I just vividly remember watching that, and there was like a handful of times, like that race. He had a cross country race in New York, and then his Boston in 2011. There's a handful of times where you're like, wow, that's magical. And I think that we have the potential to see that sort of performance tomorrow, which is really exciting. So what I'm trying to say is, make sure you tune in and watch the broadcast.
Leave the TV on at home, record it, and then go run your race. Yeah, it's going to be a great day.
Do you want to get into some of the names? I mean, we did that very vaguely. Who are you looking at? Who's exciting?
I mean, I have a dark horse for the men's half.
Do you want to drop the name?
Sure. When I was still running professionally, I used to do some of my long runs with Morgan Pearson. He was running at CU at the time, and he'd let me stay with him for about 12 to 15, and then he'd be like, all right, bye. Yeah. But he's moved into triathlon. He's made 2 Olympic teams in the triathlon. He has medals from the team events, but he is a very, very good runner, and he has been training for this. And I'm super excited to see what happens when Morgan. I mean, he's still like swimming and biking, but he's put this on the calendar as something that's really important. So I'm really excited to see what happens when Morgan is running.
And he's not this sleeper. Like, he actually ran incredibly well in Valencia. So it shouldn't be a surprise, but for some reason, I mean, this reminds me a lot of the men's 15, where I was like, oh, Josh Kerr, Ingebrigtsen, and then Cole Hawker was like, oh, wait a minute,
yeah.
I'm really good too, right. You know, so it wouldn't be a total surprise. And I think the dynamics of like those two battling each other, like, I want the American record, and he can kind of just make it, like, do his own thing, race his own race, and I think he's got a monster kick too.
He does. So I'm excited to see him. Obviously, Joe Klecker, it's his debut, and I ran with him a little bit at the same time. Also, he would be nice and let me stay for like 12 miles or something. He'd be like, bye. But it's really fun for me to see those guys that I used to run with now in their professional careers. It's really fun to see.
Love it. Let's talk about the women real quick. I'm taking up a ton of time.
You know,
sorry.
We're eating up time. That's okay.
All right.
We'll keep you guys just a little longer.
Women's half. It's so funny because we're talking about the men's American record, and that's the big one, and it's been around for forever. But would it surprise you if the women's went down?
No. Yeah. I'd be way less surprised
right.
if the women's goes down. I just think women's running is at this. It's just the right time with the right talent, and so obviously Wayne Colati said it here last year, I believe. She's back. Amanda Vestry is running really, really well. I just think there's a lot of potential to see a fast time on the women's side.
Yeah, I think sleepers in that race, Susanna Sullivan, for some reason people forget about her, which is wild, and that's kind of how Chicago felt, and then she went out and just blew it up. It was like, yeah, I'm pretty good.
Hi, I can run 2:22.
Yeah, she seems super fit, super relaxed, so I'm excited for her. And then Lindsay Flanagan, like, talk about someone who doesn't get mentioned enough. I think she'll be right in that mix as well. So I'm excited for Vestry, Flanagan, Sullivan, and obviously Colati. I think she's talked about running and like trying to go for sub 66. Seems crazy. So yeah, that's like, I think it'll be 2 different groups trying to do 2 different things. But if Colati were to get a little bit over her head, you could kind of see that group like find a race.
I think that group is going to be racing each other.
Yeah.
Maybe Kaladi's out a little bit harder if she's looking at that sub 66-minute time, but the rest of them, I see them really being tightly packed and like the last 3 miles being a grit fest.
Yeah, which is great because I think that's where you're not like, wow, fast am I running? I just want to beat you, and I want her to die on the island, and I want to win yellow jacket, right?
I'm not going to die first. It's not happening.
And then let's briefly touch on the fulls because they're happening as well. They're a pretty big deal. I'm here for the masses, not the elites, but
right.
We'll talk about these elites. I mean, I think the men's is fairly, like both sides are fairly wide open. I think we were on that broadcast meeting and someone, I can't remember who said it, but it was like, Houston's a place where you have an opportunity to make a name for yourself, right? And it's, maybe they're not people that we hear of all the time. I think there's a Dibaba in the field. The young man from Puma last year led for most of the race and just faltered late. So he's coming back and is hungry, Henrik Pfeiffer. So yeah, like these athletes they want to take that next step. Like if I can win here, I can catch the eye of the majors, and it wouldn't be uncommon to see someone win in Houston, get added to the Boston elite field, and then you've seen people go in and win Boston, like boom, boom, right after. So it's a great like jumping off point, and then you create a lot of loyalty with Houston. You'll see a lot of those champs come back and just continue to show up at these, whether it's the half or the full, which is exciting. But on the women's side, I mean, for me, I'm excited to see what Erica Kemp can do.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, did she run here 2 years ago?
She's run the half a number of times.
Maybe she ran Boston a couple.
Debuted in Boston, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw her today. She looks so relaxed. One of the things she said it to David Monty, I think, or she said at the press conference, they said, oh, you've always run well here. You must really love the course. And she said, I don't know at all. And I was like, oh, I feel so seen because I never remember the course because, I'm running hard. And so I really love that quote from her. She's like, yeah, I've had good juju here, but I actually can't tell you anything about the course. I really love that. But I saw her today. She seems super relaxed, ready to go. All the training's gone well. She's lowered her PR in the half significantly. She's a sub 70-minute performer now. So I think it's her time.
Yeah, she seems ready for the moment. She seemed very relaxed, and I don't know. I think it's kind of a nice place to come and try to knock it out of the park. Like, everyone's doing their winter stuff and their holiday season, and you haven't heard much from her. She just kind of had her head down. She's working away, and I feel like you want your reward for sort of staying disciplined during that season. So, like, tomorrow's Christmas for her. It's her Christmas, right?
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear you talk about it.
And let's just say, for example, she wins, Kara. What are they going to place on her head at the finish line? Tell me.
I mean, I brought this, by the way.
That did not come with the theater.
We were both supposed to bring ours, but someone forgot theirs. But this is one of the fun things about Houston is you get this like too legit hat. I'm not going to put it on my head because it didn't fit when I earned it 13 years ago and it doesn't fit now. Okay, you want to see it on?
Yes.
Okay, picture when you were little and you went to the baseball games, you got a sundae in one of those little tiny baseball hats. Did I nail it? So small. But anyway,
what's the gallon on that?
Yeah. So that's what they're going to get. We're going to see a lot of cowboy hats tomorrow. Des, put it on just to show us what it's supposed to look like.
I don't even know the front from the back on these things. 6 7/8? I don't know.
Better.
I don't do hats. I have an ear hat thing that we don't do.
I love hats, but some of us people have big heads. And
Yeah.
you can't do a one size fits all. Okay? Doesn't work for all of us. But yeah, the hat.
All right, well, that is from the Olympic trials in 2012 that Kara and I ran here, and we're just going to go down memory lane. We did this in Boston a little bit. It was kind of fun. I don't know. Some people liked it. Some people hated it, but we had fun, so that's what we're really here for. So, yeah, this is what the arches look like out here. This is the finish line. This was the moment.
Okay, let's go back in time. Yeah. This is your second Olympic marathon trials, but you hadn't made a team yet. You roll into Houston. We actually got like the perfect weather day. So
Sorry.
sorry. It was perfect outside, but you roll in. How were you feeling? Were you confident you were going to make this team?
I feel like, yeah, it's been so long, to be honest. I feel like I remember 16 quite well, but 12 less so. I feel like I knew the amount of pressure because I was coming off of 2011 Boston. It was like, oh, like this is, you're supposed to be the next thing. Like, what's the next step after finishing runner-up in Boston? Like, you should probably make an Olympic team. So there was that, definitely that element of pressure, but also a ton of confidence that came with that. So that was, yeah, it was a good blend. And then also I remember being devastated after not making the 2008 team. And so I was like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. This is fun. This is an exciting moment to be at.
Yeah.
What about you? You're
total opposite.
Give us a little backstory on just like injury, hiccup, you changed teams. There's a lot of moving parts in your world before this.
Yeah, so I had gotten a femoral stress fracture in the head of my femur right before World Track Champs, and they were in Daegu, South Korea, but I had to run them or I was going to be significantly reduced in my contract. And so I ran the World Championship and went back and had another MRI. It was worse.
You don't say.
Yeah, it was bad. And during that time, I also decided I was going to leave my team. And so I had spent about a month trying to find a new team to join. I hadn't run or worked out or anything. And my first day of practice with my new team was 12 weeks to the day of the Olympic trials. And my new teammate, Shalane Flanagan, was doing a 20-mile run, and I made it 8 miles. Anyway, great start. And so honestly, on the build up to this, I was just dealing with a lot of stress, doubting myself for leaving my coach and all that kind of thing. And I started to get a little bit better fitness, and my coach at the time, Jerry Schumacher, just kept saying, we're going to shoot for top 5 or 6 and hope someone gets hurt. And you know what? It sounds so harsh, but it actually was realistic. And the reason it was so important was that 3 weeks out, Shalane started to do a taper, and I just started to get more and more fit. I remember 7 days before, I did an 18-mile progression run, and Shalane did like a 5-mile run and iced, But my fitness kept coming, and when we landed in Houston, Jerry said, I believe you can do it. And it meant so much to me because he had been so honest the whole time. And so I came in here, this is the most nervous I've ever been in my life, was this Olympic trials.
Seeing that banner. Do you feel nervous looking at that now?
Not as much because I know how it ends, but look at my face. Do I look like I'm excited to run 26.2 miles? I just felt so much pressure, and I felt so unprepared, and I felt really exposed. Des is all
you don't
confident.
look thrilled.
I'm about to cry.
Let's go. Yeah, I don't really know what else to add to that one. I feel like...
Well, I do know that, Shalane and I thought that it would come down to us and maybe 2 other people. So you were on everybody's radar. Obviously, you had that phenomenal Boston race. And it was kind of just like, let's see what happens.
Who else were you guys thinking about? Like, who were the players back then?
Well, Dina was in it. Mm-hmm. And even though she was coming back from having her daughter, she's Dina.
Yeah.
She's run 2:19, right? And Amy Craig had run a very good debut. Mm-hmm. Although she was Amy Hastings at the time, I think. Yeah. And so then I don't know.
Janet Sherbaum was in there. She was a great runner. Yep. Magdalena Louie, Blake Russell's over there, 2000, I keep wanting to say 2028, and that's not it.
Yeah, that's your
Olympians.
2008 Olympic team, right?
Yeah.
Magda and Blake. So, I mean, it was legit field.
Yeah. Okay, next. And we're off. We're off to the races.
Yeah. So the race, it was like a 2.2 mile loop, and then we went out and did 3 8-mile loops, which I really loved because I was constantly hearing my husband and hearing my coach, and it felt more like practice than like your life is on the line.
Yeah, seriously. How were the crowds? Do you remember the crowds?
Through the city, super deep. Out on the highway stuff, no, but I liked that because I could hear my people.
You could like regroup, right?
Yeah. Adam and Jerry were on Liptigos.
Oh,
and they were like everywhere.
That's cool.
Everywhere, yeah.
Sort of. Yeah, this is early days because everyone's there, and I feel like it was like, hey, eye up who you need to be around, make sure you have your space so you can get to your bottles early. But also, like, you just knew Amy was going to go to the front. She was going to I mean, I knew Amy from racing at ASU, and it was like, I just know how she's going to race. You
See,
know,
but
it's like,
I didn't know any of that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you knew she's going to go to the front, she's going to push. I didn't. And so she made me nervous throughout the race, but we'll get more into that.
yeah. All right, this looks good. Next.
We're dwindling.
Yeah, it's getting slim.
There's Katie McGregor.
The players are there.
Dina, right? So it's starting to dwindle down, but it's everyone who's in there is still a legit player. And so,
Look at me one-stepping everyone. Like, I'm winning.
what are you doing? You're just too good to run with the rest of us.
I'm trying to push the pace.
I do think you
but
were trying to
not-
push the pace because the first 2 miles were pretty slow.
Yeah.
And I think you were like, no, I came here to run 26.2.
Yeah, I didn't want to make it any shorter for Shalane. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be 26.2.
Yeah.
And every mile, like, shorter, every extra mile of warm-up, she's got a better chance of crushing me. So that's what was going on there. Okay,
Okay.
next.
Oh, this is fun. So Nike had these big banners that were like, the road to London starts in Houston or something like that. And that's my chubby, gorgeous child with my mom on race day underneath the sign. Is that so cute? It's so cute.
It's such a
But don't
odd-
ask me if I thought about my son during the race. I did not. He doesn't steal my running time. I was thinking about her and Shalane and Amy, and he did not enter my mind until I crossed the finish line.
He looks like he's having fun. Yeah, mind the gap. We were ready for London. This was the first AI input, like draw a runner, make it look like London, and it's developed quite a bit since then.
Wait, who made this?
I can't remember. It was probably my sister, like whipping it up the night before. But no, it's cool. I think the trials are like such a moment where everyone comes out, like your family, your friends, like people who aren't interested in running most of the time are like, oh, like Olympics? Yeah, I know what that is. I'm going to go watch you try to make it. And even if you're like the last seed or like people get so excited.
Yeah.
There's signs everywhere. It's just a different energy, and people put in a lot of extra work on the graphics. Also, Davila, a little nod to the past there.
Good nod. Okay, so this is when S got real, right? This is when stuff
Say
started
it.
going down. There's 3 spots on the team, and there was clearly 4 women for the job, and we separated quite a bit from everybody else. And I'm hurting a little
You
bit.
know how we can tell is because your head's tipped back
My head's back.
just a touch.
That's another story about my wrist. Do you remember that?
No, but I would immediately tell you a story about Amy's left hand there.
Okay.
That's the dinosaur hand. That means she's very, very tired.
Oh, yeah. So when I got tired, yeah, the claw.
This is Kara.
So when I get tired, my neck would go back, and I would start to run like this. But I have a heart of gold, people. I'm still going to keep going. I just look bad. So anyway, after this is all done, which we'll still talk about, we had to go, and I had like carpal tunnel because I was so tense. And I told you, and you go, you shouldn't tell anybody that.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
you
like
should
that's
keep
just
that to yourself.
poking a hole. Like, don't give anyone anything. Yeah, the left hand claw. Like, you just learn little things the more times you race, folks. Which I would know that about Amy. I think if you had been on like in front of me and I saw the head tip back, I would have been like, okay, like I know where you're at. You just pick up on little things like that. But yeah, you can tell this is obviously the separations there, but also you start seeing those little body language things. I look great. Just kidding. I'm
You
hurting
do.
as well.
You were definitely in control. I can't remember what the next slide is, but you did control the race for a little bit at this point. Let's
Me
see
dying.
what it is. Okay. Well, this is when Amy did start to throw in these surges, and they were really aggressive. And she'd go hard, but she'd only run hard for like 100 meters. And so then I started to think, I think she's messing with us. I think she's trying to scare us. And so I started to play this mental game of like, I'm tougher than anyone up here. I'm willing to go to dark places than anyone else. So when she started to do this, I started to get a little bit of confidence. Because even though I was clearly on the rails, I started to think, I know I can hold this pace. And I don't need, So I started,
Yeah.
this actually was starting to give me confidence.
And as it should have, because if you watched Amy enough, when she started to fatigue, when she felt like she was out of it, she would go to the front and try to push. Like, I can control this, I can be in front. And then it was almost like her own little battle. Like, no, I'm good. And then she would slide back and be like, no, I'm good. And like, that's like, you'd see that happening. I'm like, okay, she's like right on the ropes. Like, we just need to get rid of one person. And right now, all the signs suggest that she's going to do it to herself. And like, this hand coming down, this hand going, like, it was all there.
Well, I'm glad I was in the back so you couldn't see my form.
There it is.
This was such an important part for me because you and Shalane started to pick it up a little bit, and I knew it was too hot for me. I knew it. I was like, I can't do this. I think we had maybe, what do you think, 6 miles to go? Yeah. And I was like, I can't hold this for 6 miles, but I know I can hold it for a mile, and I bet that's gonna. This is so harsh, but this is how you have to think. That's going to kill Amy to see me pull away.
Bury her.
And so I made the promise to myself I was going to stick with you guys for 1 mile. And then when we had that popsicle turn, if she was far enough back, I would back off and make sure that I could finish.
Yeah. We might have dropped her. It might have been later than that. I don't exactly know
more like
when
4 miles to go. Or so.
Separation was. But I do remember it was a lot quieter out there, and the people in the crowds were like, "You guys are going to London. This is it.
Yes.
This is the team." And it's like, hold on. I mean, yes, but like, there's still a lot of work left to do. And I remember, I'll never forget this. There was some guy who was out there, and I was in the front for a little bit, and he was like, "You got to push the pace if you want to beat them. Like, you got to pick it up." And I'm like, that's how racing works.
Right,
like,
right.
If you want to beat
Thanks
them,
for the advice.
you must run faster. I am doing my best, sir.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of it made me laugh. Like, I just sort of looked at him and laughed, and he was like, "Oh yeah, laugh it up, and then they're going to beat you." And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, I'll never forget that. I thought it was the funniest. Like, it was just so. Like, I
never thought of that
how it works
so much.
I'm trying.
Yeah, as we started to separate a little bit, my coach Jerry was like, "You're doing it. You can catch Des." And I yelled to him, "No, I can't. I'm faking it." And he goes, "Okay." He was like, "All right. You're safely in third." Okay.
This is the behind the scenes that we needed. All right, what else happens? Oh yeah, you guys are dropping me.
Oh yeah. No, that's from earlier maybe. I don't know. I just was, I was used to running behind Shalane in practice, so it felt very comfortable to run behind her. It made me feel like I could do it. And we never were able to drop you, but yeah.
Well, Shalane did. I mean, I think that was such a great separation, like when we had that moment where you could like mentally hit reset and be like, okay, all I need to do is take care of this. Like, you preserve your spot. Like, I don't care if I'm third, first, but these are all winners today. Whoever gets the most prize money, great. But I just want to get the ticket. And so I think that I don't think that group ever felt like, hey, let's just work together and make sure everyone here is gonna, but mentally you're like, these are the spots.
Definitely when it was the three of us broken away, I remember feeling a lot of relief.
Yeah.
Like, I just have to not fall now or do something stupid,
right.
And I'm going.
Well, when someone pops off the back, you go, we're creating this gap. They're not gonna get faster, so you're not worried about them. It's who's behind them. And then that gap is another, I think there was like a little turn that you could see.
Yeah, it was like a complete 180.
Yeah, so
right?
You could get a little peek, and it was like, okay,
yeah,
this looks
You're like, I don't see anyone. I'm good.
Right.
I just have to survive for like another mile and a half.
Stay upright.
Yeah.
And then I took off my glasses, and I was hurting. I was like, oh,
Is this
no.
you running in?
Yeah, this is the finishing stretch, and I knew you were right behind me.
I wasn't that close.
You were like 6 seconds back, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It was pretty close. And I wanted second at that point, at least.
That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's like home stretch. You can see it. This is the dream. You're gritting your teeth, but it's also like, just get me to the finish so I can celebrate, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
This is actually my favorite photo that's ever been taken of me in my running career, because this is right as you turn. You're turning here, and then you see the finish line, and I knew I was going to make it. And I literally, it like took my breath away. I was like so relieved and so happy. And I can't believe someone captured that. It's my favorite photo.
Do you think this is a person's shadow? Is that a face?
I think that's one of the military guys that was out there.
Yeah, okay. I was like, what? It's a huge head. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great shot. The shadow's weird. You could
Shadow's
probably-
weird, but it's
probably
still my
edit that
favorite
out.
photo. Don't ruin it.
All right. Yay, hugs all around. That's me and Ryan. I like the shot. One, it's just a really special moment, which is very cool. But Joni took that shot, and she sent it to us later. She's like, I got this of you and Ryan. And so we have it hanging in our house, and it's like, photo cred, Joan Benoit Samuelson.
That's awesome.
Not the worst.
very cool.
Yeah. Let's pretend we're friends.
This is us pretending to be friends on TV. No, I was so relieved at this moment. Like, I was expressing gratitude, I think. I didn't really know to who, mostly to Jerry and Shalane for letting me join the team, and just the relief. And I do remember my son was like so heavy. So I'm holding him there, and I was just so happy, but I was also like, I'm tired.
Can you grab him?
Can someone
No,
come
don't
get
give him
this
to me.
adorable chubby baby? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, I mean, look at that face.
squeeze his cheeks.
He's like a full dude now. Those cheeks. Yeah, unlike you were saying, Ryan's there at the finish. Adam was at the finish. We were all crying, except for Colt, who didn't know what was happening. But
At least he wasn't crying, though, right?
he wasn't
Like,
crying.
Hey, what do you need?
He
Toys?
was just
Do
like,
you need a
whatever,
nap?
are
Do
you
need
done?
Some food?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was such a happy moment.
Lovely. Yay! We're going to London.
You know what I love about this photo is I've always loved this photo because like we're all emotional. We're going to London. The dream has been made. But now that I know Des and I'm like pressing her into me, and now that I know how much she hates hugs, every time I see these photos, I just like giggle to myself because I was like pressing her in. But it was awesome.
It's awesome when you're like, this is so great, but also I don't know these people. This is kind of manufactured, right? Like, I love you.
Oh! Notice the hat differential on the three women there. Just resting on top of the dome, you know.
It's fine.
But that was pretty cool. Did they give you one of those jackets?
Yeah, that's like a big. We talked about contracts in the last thing,
Yeah.
right? And I very specifically remember the Hansons being like, "They're going to give you a jacket if you make the team. You don't have to put it on." It's obviously a Nike jacket. It has the branding of the Olympics, and then the Nike on the other side, which is like, you know, it's part of the event. This is who sponsors the Olympics, and they want you to wear these for the thing. You don't have to wear it because if I were to put that on, what two logos do I cover?
Right.
My team and my sponsor, who got me prepared for this moment, who deserve this photo.
That's
so
right.
mine's folded over my arm right there.
And, oh,
Is this from the same trip, or is
this
this
is
just
a
a
Colt
random?
show. But the hat fit Colt, so it was worth taking home because it fit his little head. It just didn't fit mine. And that was right after we went through media.
Nice.
And I'm sorry, he's just so cute. But yeah, it was such a good day all around, right? It was great.
Yeah, I had a really similar picture of Ryan in my head. Just like this, but we're out. I told you this before. We were out pretty late celebrating, and we went to go get Mexican food, and buddies were all there. And he was really tired. Ryan can sleep anywhere, and he gets really tired really quick. So he had the hat on. He was super happy, and then like he kind of nods off, and he tips forward, and there was guacamole. So like the front of it just has like a little guacamole stain, which is a great story. But he looked just like that.
Just like that. Well, that was fun. Thanks, guys, for walking down memory lane with us.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny to think back, like, you know, our paths crossed so much over the years. But, like, you weren't really my friend till a couple of years ago.
You think we're friends?
Oh, I know we are. Nice try.
Yeah, no, it's been really fun, and I think it's like there's a lot of maturity involved. I mean, I think back in the day it would have been really hard because as a 22, 3, 4-year-old, you're like, I just want to crush everyone. I want to make money. I want to win. I want to be on the Olympic team, and it's hard to like see bigger picture. But the longer you're in the sport, and like the more you grow up, and the more you realize you're not, you know, it is this team effort, and team's not logos and colors. It's like who's in your life that's propping you up. You realize that other athletes can be really great assets. They can be great friends. You can lift each other up without taking away and celebrate each other's success together. And I think for me, it was a maturity thing. I think there's tons of athletes that maybe at 23 just get it right away, and that's incredible. But I think it can take a while. So we're here, finally.
I'm so glad we've matured. Aren't you guys glad we've matured?
One of us is. You were already there.
No, one other thing I did want to say was that race was organized so well. Like from the moment you arrived in Houston to being able to do your shakeout to all the accommodations to the water on the course. I mean, everything was amazing. And we were so lucky we got absolutely perfect weather that day.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible event, top to bottom, and I think people were excited in 16 that it might come back, and I think love to see Houston put in another bid in the future because athletes should get a chance to run in front of this incredible community, and there's ways to, I think the next day was this event, so it was like we got to go out and cheer on the masses, the less elites, as they did their thing.
I'm just going to let you suffer with that one. Well, that was really fun, but now we do want to open it up to all of you who came here to hang out with us tonight and see if you have any questions. I think that Christopher is going to come back out. Thanks, Chris. Oh, by the way, this is Chris, you guys.
Yay. Ask him for photos.
We got a lot of good ones on the Instagram posts, so I'm going to start there, and then we're going to open it up for some of the VIPs. Here's a good one to start. What are some lessons from your first marathon that you'd pass on to the first-timers in the room?
So long ago.
I think I really cherished my first marathon because I couldn't over-plan for it or over-prepare because I was coming off the Olympics in Beijing, and so I only had so much time. And I think you're ready. I didn't have like this picture-perfect buildup. I actually got sick in the middle. I topped out at, which I know might sound like a lot, but it's not for elites. I topped out at 100 miles a week, and it even though the training went well, it wasn't like, it was basically 8 weeks from Beijing to New York, and it's still, I consider it one of my best marathons. So you can nail it on your first one. You just have to be patient. It's always better to be conservative at the beginning, but you can really do it and feel strong and like change your life in one race.
I don't want to step on the toes of that because I think that's great.
Step?
No, but also like with conditions and all of the other things, and maybe it's not tomorrow because I think tomorrow is probably pretty decent. But did anybody run 2007 Boston? It was a nor'easter. They were like threatening to cancel it for one of the first times. It was, really cold, headwind, rain, and that was my first marathon. And I had like what I had trained for, the goal, and like I'm gonna crush it, and I want to run this time. And I think that all went out the window. And I think because I was adaptable, given the conditions, I was able to have a successful first marathon and have a good experience and be hungry for more versus holding on so tightly to that goal because I had trained for it, but the conditions weren't going to allow for it, right? So you have to be flexible for the things that are out of your control. Control what you can, but also don't be so rigid that you let something that's not the ideal perfect day derail your day by not adjusting for it.
I'll ask one more, then we'll open it to the pit. My 8-year-old loves running. Advice to keep him from moving too fast, too soon in competition overall. I want him to love it and not see it only as competition.
Well, this is something I feel really passionately about. Kids, running is great. I started running when I was 6. Obviously, I'm 46. I've been running for 40 years, but I was doing so many other things and I wasn't racing a lot. I was racing 2 or 3 times a year with my grandpa. It was something we did together. I think running is addicting. I think all of us have felt that where it gets addicting and you don't want to give it to a kid too young and holding back is always, I think, better. I have a 14-year-old who's going to be in 9th grade next year and I've held him back so much. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to come here in 4 years and tell you it was the right choice. But I really think it is because they're not ready to make a decision to commit to something. They're too young, and I think it's important to do a lot of things, whether it's music, theater, other sports, like be a well-rounded individual. And then if you get to high school and you're like, this is what I want to do, I feel like that's great, but it should always be fun. And that's the thing about running is only one person's going to win the women's or men's marathon tomorrow, or two people, okay, two people. That doesn't mean everyone else is a failure. That doesn't mean everyone else lost. Everyone is on their own journey and your own progress and your own storyline. And that's what I love about running, and that's what I think youth running should be focused on.
Okay, I kind of have two. So we are getting cold weather tomorrow. Like it's dropping and the start is going to be like 32 degrees and then we have headwinds. For Houston, we don't get that weather at all. So what do y'all recommend wearing for that? Like what would you wear?
I would just say one thing is like everyone's facing that weather. So everyone is going to be in colder conditions than they thought, and everyone, so like don't let it become something that I think you, like Des was saying, let's think about how this could affect the race and the paces that I want to run. But it's not like this cold front's just going to follow you, you know? Like everyone's going to be dealing with it. I think layering is super important. It's so easy to toss a top, toss gloves, toss arm warmers. I say, like, especially on top, overdress, because you can always chuck. And like once your core gets cold, right? So like keep this part nice and warm, but also you're probably gonna warm up and realize you don't feel the cold. So you're probably gonna wanna chuck that shirt off.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think that something that a lot of people don't think about because we're worried about clothes and like how am I going to stay warm, nutrition becomes more important. You know, if you're out there and you're shivering, you're burning through those calories a little quicker. When it's cold, you're not thinking, oh, I need to hydrate, but you still need the fuel and you're actually probably burning through it a little bit quicker. So make sure that like nutrition plan you become more diligent about, not overdoing it, but like it's actually really, really important, even though it's not hot and you're like, I want to sip and drink, or your hands are cold and you don't want to take your gel. Those things are really important, particularly early on in the race, to make sure you're staying on top of.
And then my other one, I guess, Chris, you might be able to answer it more. Do you have any tips for the course tomorrow?
Take it away, Chris.
Do I have tips? Do I have tips, guys? I have tips. Absolutely. This race is a flat, fast course, so I typically recommend a pretty textbook strategy for either race. You know, there's some undulations to be aware of, but they're not undulations that you need to worry about from a course strategy standpoint. You just want to mentally note them. For the marathoners at the halfway point, you've got the biggest climb on the course, which is actually a nice break from the flat and consistent use of the same muscles. And then, of course, you've got those two underpasses from 23 to 25 that you just want to be aware of that aren't big hills, maybe big for Houston, but they're more mental battle than they are a physical battle. But I want you to start the race conservatively. For marathoners, I'd recommend starting about 30 seconds per mile slower than your target, working down about 10 seconds a mile to your target over the first 3 to 4 miles. Hold that as consistently as you can. For the marathoners, note that 13 to 18, you will have some headwinds probably to be aware of. Tuck in behind people, recognize you might be a little bit slower there, and that's okay. Stay patient. Hold until 21, and then if you're feeling good at 21, just around Memorial Park or just after you go through that tunnel, then it's time to start picking it up. And I recommend picking it up in a couple mile increments, trying to pick it up to the finish. And if you've managed your energy well, then you should have something left. And I overall think this is going to be a good weather day. I mean, I raced in very similar conditions last year. Yes, you're going to have some headwinds, but a north wind is much better in Houston than a south wind because that means that it'll be to your back or a crosswind in the final 8 for the marathoners. For the half marathoners, I recommend starting about 20 seconds slow, maybe 15 to 20 seconds slow in the first mile, working down to your target by the 3rd mile. Go to sleep until 10, and then try to press from there. You guys will face the wind from 8.5 until about 11, so just be aware of that. Again, try to tuck in, be patient. If you don't have an extra gear there, that's okay. The wind can make a big difference when it's 15 to 20 mile an hour headwinds. Don't fight it. Wait until you get to that right turn on Allen Parkway, and then you crush from there.
What is the strangest or most memorable encounter you've had with a fan?
I don't want to sell anybody out. Just kidding. I don't know.
I feel like we were just talking.
We were.
They're so not okay.
We were talking about this backstage. I can't tell that story though. So, do you have one?
No, I mean, there was the guy who was bringing around the deflated footballs. And,
yeah.
like, he was like, take a picture while I juggle the deflated footballs in a Tom Brady mask. And I was like, I don't want to. Like, I don't get this. Like, and, like, I work with the BAA and like, I don't need this photo. And he was very upset that I was just like, no.
Yeah.
But I'm not, if you're wearing a mask and juggling deflated balls, like, I'm not taking a photo with you. Just heads up.
I think in general, fans are awesome, but there have been a few like bringing you songs they wrote multiple times throughout the year, and you're like, that's a problem. Our relationship, we're not that tight.
Nerds ropes, good.
Good. Songs you wrote on your guitar recorded, bad.
Your demo.
Okay, another one from the comments. What's your go-to mantra or thought as you enter the pain cave?
Mine's super practical. I've talked about this a few times, but no one really like it because it's like Amy used to have a really good one. It was like, I breathe in strength, I breathe out weakness. I was like, holy shit, that's amazing.
I remember reading that and being like, wow, that's clever.
And I just say calm, 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 relax, 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 and I do it in this like sort of soothing, like time it with your steps and your breathing pattern, and then I do an inventory head to toe. Like, is my jaw clenched? Is my shoulders up in my ears? Are my hands too and just go through and make sure everything's relaxed, because I feel like when we're really in the pain cave and we're pushing and trying to fight for all those seconds, it's like we tense up, and then you get those race photos and you're like, and you think you're going really fast, but that's not really where the fast happens. It's like when you're relaxed and fluid, that's where it happens. So I just try to stay relaxed, and I do that with calm, 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 relax, 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 which is really boring.
Yeah, but it's nice. It's got a good rhythm. I just try to remind myself I've been here before, right? I've been here before in training, in other races. I've been here before. I'm comfortable with discomfort. I will get through this patch. I mean, we all run so much. We've all had great days. We've all had horrible days, and we still got through it. So I've been here. I know what this feels like. It's just a little, it's my brain telling me to stop doing it, but my body's going to overpower it. Or the other way around.
Okay, someone brought their daughter, their 10-year-old Evie. Evie, where are you at? Somewhere over here. Evie has a question. She'd like to know, what's your favorite pre-run snack? Good question, Evie.
That is a great question. Honestly, I ate like a half a bag of tortilla chips. I know that's not like probably what your parents want me to tell you. But, normally my big run when I was training was in the morning, and I would have toast and like maybe some eggs, whatever. And then before my secondary run, I would eat like a half a bag of chips.
It's always the second run. The second run is like, it's more like a challenge. Like the first one is your long one. That's the quality run of the day. So you're like, oh yeah, like a piece of toast with peanut butter, a bagel, or something like, good for you. That's going to fuel the run. And then the second one, I'm like, 17 Doritos, 2 Nerds ropes, and an Oreo. And then like, try not to crap my pants, and then like a 4-mile second run, you can do that. If it's a 6-mile, you're like, okay, this is just long enough that I need 3 Doritos. It gets really questionable on the
we've never talked about this, but when I doubled every day except for Saturdays for most of my career, and my double was always pretty short, like between 3 and 4 miles. But once it clicked to a 5-mile double,
danger zone.
all of a sudden it's like a real run.
Like that's a real, yeah.
It's like I can't just, rock out to Spice Girls and run this. I got to like think a little bit. I might have to stretch. It's like, where does it flip for you where it becomes like, okay, this is a real run? Well, I know you don't stretch. You know what I mean? A lot of us do.
Oh, I would never do an odd number. That would be crazy. So it's 4 or 6. 6 is like, that's like substantial where
That is a real
I have
double.
to think about my stomach.
Yeah.
But it's also like some of it's kind of a challenge. You know, like, oh, let's see what I can get away with. I've made it every time so far. If I had to do an 8-mile double, like game changer, I wouldn't do it probably.
That's a big double day.
And it's only fair that Evie's mom gets her question in too, which is, I'd love to hear you talk about running in your youth and when you knew running was for you.
I started running with my grandpa when I was 6. I ran with my grandpa for years in the summer, and then we would do a couple races together. I came from a really active family, and so if you name a sport, I've played it. I literally had a tennis court because my stepdad thought one of us was going to be a tennis pro. Every sport. So I think I knew running was my thing pretty early on when I started competitive running with my middle school, because I didn't have to think about where the racket was in my hand. I didn't have to think about, I was a competitive skier, where my pole is planting. I didn't have to think about right before I kicked the ball where I was going to place. It's the only sport I could do where I didn't have to think before I did. And I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty great.
I mean, I played a bunch of different sports. I think the size factor made it pretty clear, but I really wanted to be a soccer player. I was like, no, I think I'm going to make this work. Fortunately, I never broke anything or like just got destroyed completely. Yeah, and I was decent enough at running. I feel like I didn't really fall in love with running until like embarrassingly late, like probably 2011, 12, 16, something like.
Houston, 2012.
Yeah. I mean, no, I honestly it was probably, I think, when I went to Kenya for the first time, and it was like, I have 4 years to try and make it back on an Olympic team, and maybe that works out, maybe it doesn't, but I should enjoy the fact that I get to do this and like really just love the active running and what it can do and where it can take you and how it's healthy, and there's this health and wellness component, all these other elements versus like I want to win or I want to qualify or want to run this time. And that, like, I was a competitor for a really long time. Like the early question about, you know, where does that shift take place? I did sports and I was a competitor, and then I really, really fell in love with the process of running as an adult.
Lighter question. You have to shit. Do you choose to pull over or do you choose to poop your pants mid-race?
What's on the line?
We need more
What is the
context.
race?
How fast are we running? Yeah. Are we making an Olympic team, or is there a medal on the line, or are we like, is this just a for fun run? Like, I need more detail.
Let's call it at a major. Let's say a major. So,
Are we in podium position?
of course.
We are pooping
Of
our
course.
pants.
You guys are always in.
Oh no, I'm definitely pooping my pants. Yeah. You're not. You're
I'm
so
pulling over.
elitist.
No, look, here's my theory. Like, I would just like bloat up and like slow down. I mean, I would have to stop and pull over and go. And I think that would be more efficient, because like the longer you run while you're waiting for this process to happen on its own, like the worse you feel and the slower you go. So I just feel like
200 to go and you're in the fight. It's Boston 2011. Are you pulling over? No, you're not.
I'm probably jogging.
No, it's just coming out. Be real. It's coming out.
This is why you do the 6 milers with, you know, the challenging meal beforehand. This is for these moments. So I'm prepared. I've trained for this. I'll clinch.
That's right.
I'll clinch it in.
I'll just let that go. I'm letting it go.
Did Shalane shit when she stopped in 2018?
No comment.
Yeah, that's. We cannot go there.
Yeah.
NDA.
She's not
I'm
here.
just saying, like, those photos.
Live forever.
Those winners'
But also, you're the
photos.
woman who won Boston while pooping her pants. I mean, I'm not saying that's what happened
No,
in
thank you.
2018, to be clear.
Thanks for the clarification.
I'm just saying,
Well, that's a whole topic for a pod.
Yeah, I'm pooping.
Future episode. Okay, we'll bring it back together. Tell us more about the flow state. When have you experienced it, and do you have tips for getting into that state?
I mean, I think Boston 2011 was that for me. Like, it just sort of went to this plan that I had envisioned for months, and it just felt easy. It felt like, obviously you're working super hard, but I felt like I belonged, and I felt like it was coming easy, and like everything was going to plan. And you finish and you're like, oh, I had no idea what the time was. You know, like people were like, oh, so I remember someone being like, can you put they asked me to sign a shoe, like, can you put your time on it? And I was like, I have no idea what it was, because it was just racing, competing, being in the moment, being in every single step. And then, you know, it's kind of broken when you get your calf cramps. But up to that point, it was like, we're locked in.
Yeah, I think that my advice to getting into the flow state is kind of what Des just said at the end, which is like being in the moment, never thinking ahead, never even thinking a moment ahead, like being so where you are, so aware of your breath, so aware of yourself. And that's when like everything fades away and you stop worrying, like worrying about stuff. You're just so present in what you're doing, and that's how you get there.
Any moments for you that stand out?
I mean, honestly, 2012 a little bit. I mean, there was so much on the line, but I was really just like focused on just staying in this smile, staying in this moment, not thinking, I'm not going to think ahead, I'm not going to think about my kid, I'm not going to think about any of that stuff except for how am I feeling right now. But I think, yeah, some of my biggest breakthroughs came like that. The first time I ran a half marathon, I ran 66:57, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what the time meant. When I finished and they were like, you broke 67 minutes, I was like, is that good? I had no idea, because I was just in the moment, and I was just performing and just sitting with myself.
Do you think ignorance is bliss favors Joe Klecker tomorrow?
I wish he was coming off a track season, ignorance is bliss. You know, my first half marathon was after I ran the 10,000 in Osaka at the World Champs, and it was like a last-minute add-on. I did it for the money.
That's all right.
Worked out. And so I didn't know what I was getting into, right? And so I couldn't train, like, oh, I'm going to train for a half marathon. It was like, oh, I'm going to try to run a half marathon. Yeah, and I think for me that was definitely the right way to get into it. Everyone's different.
Are y'all going to take the pod on the road anywhere else?
Well, this was an experiment that seemed to have gone well. We do want to raise some money because we want to put on a race.
Because we're greedy. You're greedy bitches.
No. But we've definitely talked about it. I think this is a year of experiments of like, what can we do and what can we bring to other areas? And I think for us, we're really focused on bringing this 10,000 meter on May 3rd to life in Mount Sac, California.
Wow.
I'm just putting it out there. We have the venue, we have the date.
Is
now
that a
we just
date?
need the
Is that a date
certification,
drop?
and we need the money.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing we've talked about is maybe taking the pod on the road a little bit to raise some money to put on this event.
Yeah, I think there's a very real scenario where we come back and go, thanks so much for coming out to Houston. Thanks so much for coming out to and name some cities because you helped us fund this 10,000 meters. And we're not broke by putting it on.
Yeah.
Because we're writing big checks to hold venues and get people to bring timing equipment. And we're hoping it works out, but we'll just have to hustle and work really hard if it doesn't to make it work. So that's I think,
Yeah.
that'll be the big motivator. But also, it's super fun.
It is fun. We like hanging out. So
Whoa, I just like the pot.
whatever, you love me. Anyway, that was a really long way of saying like, yeah, I think there's more live pods in the future.
Yeah, good chance.
I think that's a good segue to the top 5.
I think we should do a top 5.
Okay.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I can start.
Okay, start.
I mean, it was your idea that you just gave me.
Oh, okay.
Which was that my niece raced today, and she did not have a good day. And I felt really lucky that she was able to call me when we were driving over here and talk to me about it. And just remind her, like, everybody in this room knows sometimes, like, it doesn't go your way, but that doesn't mean the fitness isn't there. And also, we don't start our season with the race that's most important, right? We build up to that. So I just felt really grateful that I was able to answer the call and be there for her because she's a rock star.
Yeah, it was a really good conversation. Like, you're just able to give her incredible advice and, like, I mean, you know, she called you directly, and like, people would kill for that. And she's like, oh, okay, thanks. See you later.
Shout out to my niece, Sophie Schoolmeister. She's a really good runner.
That's great. All right, I'm going to go with the Brooks athletes racing tomorrow in the half and the full. There's a bunch of them. I don't know all the names, but if you get the Houston program, there's a really nice photo in the back of a bunch of them that are racing. CJ Albertson's pacing the marathon. Wouldn't be shocked if he finishes. We'll see. No pressure. Zach Panning will be running the half, Erica Kemp running the marathon. We have Amanda Vestry, who's looking great. We've talked about Susanna Sullivan. There's a bunch of them. Anne-Marie Blaney, Amy Davis. Look for their names, look for the Brooks affiliation on the results and see how they did, because they're all ready to crush, and it's super exciting. I think you saw the momentum from the fall, those fall marathons. People were just running amazing in Chicago, some good progress in New York, and the crews are just getting better and better. And so check out their results, give them a follow on the socials, cheer for them. I'm pumped for all of them.
Boo-hoo. I'm going to say Houston Marathon in general, because we wouldn't be able to sit up here and say we were Olympic teammates if what happened in 2012 didn't happen. And so it's that was so fun to walk down memory lane. It's one of my most favorite and most treasured memories, was making that team after everything I had been through and getting to make a team with you. And we get to say oh, we're Olympic teammates, and that's why. So yay, Houston.
I'm going to go with the weather. I know. People are like, oh, it's so cold. What do you think about this? What do you think? It's a topic we talk about all the time, and
not talking about it in 2025.
No, and I think here's the thing. It's that's what makes it interesting. They're all 26.2. We have some courses. We know them. This is flat, it's fast, but it's this X factor that keeps the marathon real. I think it's become this event that is just a extended half marathon. People go so fast, they don't necessarily feel beat up afterwards. It's crazy how it's changing on the front, and that's trickling down, and there's more people that are qualifying for Boston, and then you guys get mad at us because we don't understand that process. And so I love that the weather element just adds this challenge, and it becomes a part of the race. So whatever you get tomorrow, don't let it beat you up. Beat it. It's another competitor out there. Have some fun with it. Use it to your advantage. Other people are going to let it get in their heads. You don't have to. That's a choice. You can figure out how to make it your advantage if you want to. So hat tip to the weather.
I'm glad the hat got some love. Okay, well, the last one is kind of a selfish one for us.
Absolutely.
But we just wanted to say thank you to everyone who came here. This was an experiment. We are so grateful that you came, and we are so grateful to Chris McClung, who was the one that helped us reserve this space and who was the one that told us, you guys could do this. You could do a big venue. So shout out to Chris. Shout out to all of you. And then selfishly, will you guys stay seated so we can get a photo with you all?